once they are together, unfortunately, breed to death.
They do. They can literally die. Thank you very much. And trust it, from a flower child, plants have feelings.
They're very needy.
They are. And they can be very happy, too. Okay? So if we accept that, obviously, nutrition is not what sets us apart, and feelings don't set us apart. That doesn't make us unique. Now, Aristotle's going to make a claim. I'm going to show you later I don't agree with it, but we're going to run with Aristotle because you're going to be tested on Aristotle. Aristotle says that reason and reason alone is what sets us apart from all other things in nature. That only human beings have the capacity to reason. Now, right away I have to have a question. How many of you have dogs? Okay, and I'm assuming that you have a bowl for water and a bowl for food. It works better that way. Okay. And now we grew up with dogs all our life. And let's just say the water bowl is empty. And the dog is thirsty. And you happen to be in the room where the bowls are. And the dog's sitting there waiting for you. And you come in, and the dog, they can get our attention. The dog looks at you, and you look at the dog. What? And the dog goes over to the water bowl and says, I want water. So you bend down and you pick it up and you fill it with food and put it down next to the other food bowl. And the dog sits there and looks at you and goes, what, are you stupid? I want water. I asked for water. Well, of course they have the capacity to communicate. In fact, we've done tests with them now, and we know animals read human faces. We don't know what it is about the dog species, but they read our faces. Do I have anybody from Michigan? My daughter was going to move down to Muskegon Heights, really not a user-friendly place down on the west side of Michigan. I told her I was concerned about her, and she says, don't worry about it. She says, my girlfriend's father gave me Zeus to take down with me. Zeus is a half wolf and half a Malamute. He brings Zeus to the house. We're going to pack Jody up. I'm going to take her down the next day. Now, here's the dining room and the kitchen over there, and here's the living room, and here's the door, and I'm sitting here, and there's a couch, and the kids are sitting, and Zeus comes in. Now, I'm a real animal person. I have a blue aura. No, I do. Animals love me because I have a blue aura. You don't believe me at all. I was driving for Enterprise, and they made me come out to Moon Lake Road, and I had to go through a gated community, and they said, when you get there, do not get out of the car. She's got a Rottweiler's bitten everyone who's ever gotten there. Punch the buttons in, go in, find her house, park the car, roll the window down, and this dog comes up, a dog comes up. I go, hey, a little female. I say, hey, girl, what's going on? I open the door, and she just rolls over on her belly. I have a blue aura. She rolls over on her belly, and I scratch her belly. And while I'm doing that, I feel this licking back here on my hand. And I go, oh, that's right, there's a Rottweiler here. So I scratch him a little bit under the chin, this way. You want to open the hand, and the lady comes out, and she goes, oh, my gosh, I can't believe it. And I said, believe what, lady? She says, he's bitten everyone that's ever come here. And I said, well, I have a blue aura. Animals like me. I have a friend up north. She works at what would be the private Ronald McDonald kind of house. It's not Ronald, but it's private. I hadn't seen her in years. I stopped in. She made dinner for me. And she's got this feral cat. Feral cats are wild cats. His mother had abandoned him. Animals will abandon the weakest in a pride. And it was freezing. I mean, northern Michigan, it was freezing. And when she saw him sliding glass door, his nose was pressed up against the window, and it looked like he was ready. He was fixing to die. So Charlene opened the door, and we call him Hobbs, H-O-B-B-S. Hobbs came in, and he fell in love with Charlene. And I'd never seen Hobbs, so I come home for dinner, and I sit down at the table, and she's prepared dinner, and I sit down at the table, and Hobbs jumps up on the table. And I look at Hobbs, and I look at Charlene. I said, do you want him on the table? She says, we don't speak unkindly to Hobbs. He was a feral cat. His mother left him to die. And I said, that's not what I asked. I said, do you want Hobbs on the table? She says, well, don't yell at him. And I looked at him, and I said, Hobbs, get down. And he looked at me, and then he looked at his mommy. And then he looked back at me, and I said, Hobbs, get down. He got down off the table. He went over to his kitty bed and lay down in it. And Charlene said, how did you get him to do that? And I said, I have a blue aura. Animals love me. So Zeus comes in the house. I was sitting right by the door. Animals in the wild really have their act together. He comes in, he stands in the living room, and he looks all around the living room. Sees 4 little kids, sees a female and a male, and my daughter's in there. He looks all around the room, and then he comes over and he sits right next to my chair. He identified the alpha male just like that. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? Now, I'm not going to touch him because I don't know if I can share his space or not, but I understood what he just did. See, animals are in a pecking order, and he figured out the pecking order immediately. So a little later on that night, we got to go down to the park. We have a statewide softball game on July 4th. And we set everything up, and I looked at Jamie, my oldest. Jamie must have been about 6 then. I said, let's go to the concession stand and get some popcorn and something to drink. So we go. And when we come back, there's Zeus. And he's kind of at the perimeter of what he decides is our area, and he's just sitting there waiting. And as we get closer, he identifies me, and he stands up, and he looks at me, and once he figures it out, he goes and sits down next to my daughter. And there are these 2 guys who came in on a yacht. And they see this happen. So as I come up, he goes, is that your dog? And I said, that's not a dog, that's a wolf. Oh, do you want to sell him? And I said, would you like to meet the wolf? I can introduce you to the wolf. I said, he's not for sale. He doesn't belong to us. He says, yeah, but when he saw you, he recognized you and sat down. And I said, that's because I'm the alpha male. If you don't leave me alone, I'm going to introduce you to the wolf. So we drive down to Muskegon Heights, and it's 4 in the afternoon, and Jody's tired, and I'm tired. She says, Dad, let's go get something to eat. I said, not yet. Go put a leash on Zeus. And we walk Zeus 1 square block around her. She says, why are we doing this? And I said, you're introducing the neighborhood to Zeus. And there were little young kids out there, 4 in the afternoon. They'd see Zeus and they'd go, is that a wolf? And I'd say, yeah, you want to come over and meet him? No. We got done with 1, we made 2 block, and then we made a 3 block radius. I said, every day when you come home now, you have to do this 3 block radius. That's his territory. He knows better than anyone else what we're doing right now. You can leave them out in the yard, they don't bark. And people won't mess with them because they don't want to know if that's a real wolf or not. Honestly, I'm sorry, that was a little rabbit hole. I honestly think that animals have the capacity to reason. Oceanographers tell you the most complicated language in the world is whale talk. You know, whales talk to one another. We get these guys and we put these little microphones on them and we tag them. If you, here's the Hawaiian Islands and here's the Aleutian Islands up by Alaska. They make a journey every year. They calf down here and then they go up here for food. I think I have that right and not backwards. And we've tagged them, and they're little pods, they're little families. They don't all belong. Even if they all go together, they're in separate pods. You know, they have loyalty to, okay. And so every time they make the journey, whether it's up or down, when they start off, one in the pod will start singing. We hear them singing. You ever hear that you can hear them, you know, it's a strange sound. And then what happens is all the rest of them pick up the same tune, and they sing the tune together. And they get about 1/3 of the way, and the tune changes. If you ever watch a long movie, you'll hear a theme song, and then it changes a little bit and changes a little bit. And the end of the movie, it goes back to it. I don't think they can watch TV, but they know how to do that. And then the next time they journey, a different whale will make up his or her own song, and the rest of them all learn it and sing all the way on the journey. It makes the journey, I guess, a whole lot easier. Well, the point of all that is I don't think Aristotle's right. I think other animals have the capacity to reason. But now that I'm back out of the rabbit hole, we're going to let Aristotle be right because it's going to prove his point. Aristotle said, and look, we're all born with the capacity to reason, but when you popped out of the oven, there's no reasoning going on in you. There's nothing but screaming. You're either cold, you're afraid, you need to be warm, you're hungry, whatever it is. You have reason built into you. Normally it doesn't kick in until maybe you're 16, 17, 18. We call it abstract thinking. When you finally have your kids, you'll find out by 2 there is no conversations to be had with them. Did I tell you I have a little grandson in Portland, Oregon? Did I tell you this story in here? I go to visit my oldest boy, Jamie. And at the end of the night, Parker's got to go to bed, and he doesn't want to go to bed. He's a 3-year-old. Why do we have to go to bed? Parker, go upstairs. So he goes up into his room and throws an absolute fit. It's not allowed to destroy anything, but that boy's got a set of lungs on him. He just pipes through the whole house. I said to Jamie, I said, how long does this go on? He says, as long as it takes. He just knows he can't break anything. About 10 minutes later, he comes down. He's upstairs. He comes downstairs in the living room. He's butt naked. He took off all his, and of course he's got his fig leaf, you know, covering himself. And he comes, and he stands right in the living room. And I'm just sitting there thinking, this is different. So, you know, we're watching TV. I watch TV. About 10 minutes go by, and my son's sitting next to me. I go, what's going on here anyway? He says, he just started doing this. I don't know why. I said, so another 10 minutes go by. And here's little Parker, stark naked. And I said to Jamie, I said, how long does this go on? He says, until he's ready to apologize. 45 minutes. And we watched TV, we ate popcorn, we had some apple pie, you know, it was Thanksgiving. And he walks over to Jamie, and Jamie says, are you ready to apologize? He goes, yes. And Jamie says, then good, go upstairs, get your jammies on, it's time to go to bed. Just like that. You don't reason with a 2-year-old, you don't reason with a 4-year-old, you don't reason with a 6-year-old, you quit at 8. And at some point, they're old enough we can have a really decent conversation. Some of you are parents, and you know, but we're going to let Aristotle have his way. Because we have the capacity to reason, Aristotle says this is what makes us unique from all other living things. Now, Aristotle says, in order to arrive at moral virtue, you must employ your capacity to reason. He said, as soon as you start to reason in the right way, 2 virtues are automatically produced. The first one, he says, is intellectual virtue. In other words, your intellect starts working. And intellectual virtue comes in 2 flavors. I'm going to put Greek words up here. You won't see the Greek words on your exam. You will see this, so you have to know this is Aristotle. As soon as you begin to reason, Aristotle says Sophia occurs. Now, Sophia is contemplative wisdom. Sophia literally means wisdom in Greek. So contemplative, once you start thinking, remember we said, okay, if the action produces a desired consequence, this is a good action. And then the example I gave you in that lecture was, I'm going to assume you all want to make wealth. So what do you have to do? What action do you have to take to produce wealth? And we said, well, maybe education, maybe the lottery. We included robbery. So Aristotle says, in order to attain to eudaimonia, we have to choose a certain course of action that will give us a desired result. How do we do that? And he says, well, let's think about it. And he said, as soon as you start thinking about it, as soon as you start contemplating it, Sophia is produced. Sophia, I'm going to put up here, is choices. Remember when I gave that lecture, I gave you 3 choices, but it could have been more. So as soon as you start to reason, reason produces choices. Then, phronesis is what he would call practical or applicable reason. Will then say, okay, so what do I have to do to make wealth? And then you make a choice. So reason gives us our choices, Sophia. And from Sophia, our choices, we get to make a choice. But Aristotle says knowing the right thing to do and choosing the right thing to do doesn't do anything until you put it into action. So he says once you make your choice, you have to put it into action. And when you start acting on it, Aristotle then calls that moral virtue. In other words, it's living the best life you can. It's eudaimonia. Ask me, dear, do you need me to explain something? Is there a word? Okay, no, do I need to? Okay, that's good. So the capacity to reason and the use of reason, Aristotle says, is what leads us to the morally good life.